This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, and today I want to talk about whether Hedera HBAR is a failure. This was a question from Shingle over on Twitter. He was responding to my Algorand video, and he was saying I would be really interested in your thoughts on Hedera and Hashgraph. And then a guy named Boomer responded, no Bitcoin maxi will ever offer you truthful analysis on Hedera. It's literally the opposite of Bitcoin, which is why having a portfolio containing both is a good idea. It's literally the opposite of Bitcoin. So I want to thank Boomer for the hint. We all know that Bitcoin is a digital commodity. It's decentralized, neutral money. So according to Boomer, Hedera is the opposite of this. So it must be an unregistered security, a centralized, controlled project. Now, Bitcoin is not a project funded by venture capitalists, so according to Boomer, we would expect Hedera to be the opposite of Bitcoin. We would expect Hedera to be controlled by large venture capitalists and large corporations who received a large initial token allocation that they proceeded to dump on retail investors. If we take a look over at Crunchbase, we can see that indeed Hedera did have venture funding over the years. Bitcoin, by contrast, does not have a headquarters, a board of directors, a global governing council, a foundation, a roadmap, any of these things, which might be signs that your project is not really decentralized at all. But remember that Hedera is the opposite of Bitcoin, according to Boomer, so we would expect it to have all of these things, as we're going to see. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to hit that like and subscribe buttons. So what does Hedera have? Hedera clearly has a headquarters in Texas, I believe. It has a board of directors. It has a global governing council, which sounds like something out of Star Wars. It has a foundation as well, of course, and it has a roadmap, unlike Bitcoin. Now, this reminds me a lot of the recent Gary Gensler interview where he basically said everything other than Bitcoin, you can find a website. This is a direct quote from Gensler. You can find a website. You can find a group of entrepreneurs. They might have set up their legal entities in a tax haven offshore. They might have a foundation like Hedera. They might lawyer it up to try to arbitrage and make it hard jurisdictionally or so forth. In other words, there are people behind these cryptocurrencies using a variety of complex and legally opaque mechanisms, but at the most basic level, they're trying to promote their tokens and invite and entice investors, which is one thing that makes these tokens like Hedera pass the Howey test and be unregistered securities. So why does any of this matter? Well, it matters if you do happen to have your headquarters in the US like Hedera does and have US investors. As we know, the SEC has been in the process of sending out Wells notices. Will Hedera get one? Almost certainly. Will they be forced to register with the SEC and make public disclosures about how much of this token the executives own when they're selling this token, material risks to the company, and other disclosures that companies have to make when they file an S1? Almost certainly. If not, Hedera will be forced to leave the US and lose access to the deepest capital markets in the world. In the final analysis, when you look into these things, all VC-backed crypto projects end up being pump and dumps. I can't think of a single one that was not. And this makes sense because how else would you expect venture capitalists to get liquidity for their LPs, for the investors in their funds? And if we take a look at the chart of Hedera, we can see that it has this classic pump and dump shape to it. But let's say for the sake of argument that Hedera is somehow able to survive a direct attack by the SEC, which it almost certainly is not. Will you sleep well at night knowing that your crypto and your investment in crypto is controlled by fiat elites? Did we really go through the cypherpunk revolution so that we could end up with a crypto controlled by large corporations like Google, Boeing, Dell, Deutsche Telekom, Standard Bank? Because that's who, it turns out, is on Hedera's governing council. We have all these large companies we can see here, including DLA Piper, IBM, Google, etc., Chainlink Labs as well. And it turns out that Hedera's state is stored on nodes that are all currently run by members of this governing council. So you basically have a cryptocurrency where the nodes are all controlled by large regulated corporations. And this seems like sort of moving backwards in time. You have this governing council that will decide your fate, and they control all the record keeping in terms of the state of the blockchain on their nodes. Like so many of these crypto projects, Hedera is just another failed crypto project. HBAR is an unregistered security that was used to fund Hedera and its foundation. It's just another example of a failed project in crypto land that had a pump and dump and now is dead money. If you study enough of these projects, you'll begin to understand what makes Bitcoin so unique. Only Bitcoin is a truly decentralized project. Only Bitcoin cannot receive a Wells notice from the SEC. Unlike Hedera, Bitcoin was not issued by a software company that's hiding behind a foundation and trying to dodge SEC regulations by doing this. Unlike Hedera, no insiders control Bitcoin. No small group can unilaterally change Bitcoin, and there's no headquarters or governing council for governments to bribe or attack. So what if Hedera still has some cool math, still has some cool tech? The question that you have to ask yourself is why they ever had to introduce a token. That shows some real ethical mediocrity. In my opinion, if they're going to be a centrally controlled corporation all along, why go the ICO route like they did in 2018, which was so scammy? Not a single good project emerged from these ICOs. But the reason they went this route is to take advantage of retail investors. This was an easy way to raise money and a very unethical way of raising money. Why didn't Hedera just sell shares to fund their software development? Obviously, they did sell some shares to some actual equity in the company to these venture capitalist investors in addition to giving them tokens. But why not just go that route? Well, that's because issuing and selling shares requires making lots of disclosures to the public. And you have to make a lot more disclosures if you're going to sell them to the public rather than just to angel investors and venture capitalists. But issuing and selling shares requires making lots of disclosures and also having to wait for an IPO to get liquidity. Tokens like HBAR, and the reason to issue a token is it's so much more fun and easy to dump on retail investors over at Coinbase in order for the VCs to get liquidity for their LPs and for executives to exit without having to file disclosures with the SEC. This is the real reason to have a token. So I'm not against software development. I'm not against people doing cool things with tech. What I'm against is going this route of fundraising and then pretending there's something decentralized about the whole thing or something special, when in fact, maybe it's a cool software company, but that route they went, I think, was ethically deplorable. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.